our agenda for today. So we're going to do just a quick introduction of Copilot Studio. We're going to cover some key concepts so that when we're looking at the demo later, we have a context of what we're looking at. Some deep dive into features. Then we're going to do a demo. We're actually going to build a quick one on the fly from scratch because I like to live dangerously. And we're going to look at some use cases, do a little Q&A, and then we're going to wrap. Okay, so who am I? I've been a consultant at Covenant Technology Partners. It'll be 4 years in April. I work primarily in the Power Platform space, but I dabble in SharePoint and SQL and, jack of all trades wherever needed. Informally, before I was a Microsoft consultant, I worked in EHS, environmental health and safety for energy and oil and gas companies. So helping collect regulatory compliance data so that we had accurate reporting to, the EPA and state regulatory agencies. Okay, what is Copilot Studio? So formerly known as Power Virtual Agents, it's now Copilot Studio with the AI injected into it. So it's a generative AI tool, connects to data sources. They can be pre-built or custom, performs tasks, it integrates with Power Automate, and it can be surfaced in a variety of places. And this is just a very high level what it is. The buzzword, what we're calling them now, is they're no longer chatbots, they are agents. Okay, so some key concepts. So topics, there's two different types in Copilot Studio. There's the system ones, which are the out-of-the-box ones, so conversation start, goodbye, escalate, and then you can do custom topics. So if you have, a particular routing that you need for yours or some kind of conditional logic, that's where you would go in, define your topic and any trigger words associated to that topic. And you can create them from blank, or now you have the option to give Copilot a description and it'll help generate it for you. Actions, so this is in preview, but it's basically Power Automate workflows, custom connectors, and REST APIs so you can connect to third-party data. So you've always been able to do Power Automate workflows in Copilot Studio, but now they've kind of categorized them into this new actions category. And then we have triggers. So you can configure agents to perform actions or call topics in response to something. So example, when an item is added in SharePoint. So if you've worked in Power Automate a lot, it's the same interface. It looks very familiar. Okay, deep dive into features. So we're going to cover kind of 3 topics: generative AI authoring, knowledge sources, and entities and slot filling. So the first one, generative AI authoring. So what is it? Artificial intelligence technology that uses language models to generate original content and provide natural language understanding and responses. So if you've used Copilot 360 and M365, or if you've used ChatGPT or something similar, it's, giving you that kind of response in, a colloquial manner. Reduces manual authoring, and some features are it creates immediately useful agents. Before, you would have to go in and define every topic, and you would have to route them specifically based on the inputs from the users. And now it just does most of the legwork for you, which is amazing. Leverages AI general knowledge. You can author topics using natural language, and you can turn on generative orchestration, which is really a fancy way of saying automation. Note, this feature needs to be selected when you're creating a new agent. So if you go in and you create a new one, it's not automatically going to do it. We have to go to settings, and we'll cover that when we do our demo. You have to go to settings and enable it. The next one, which is the one I'm most excited about, is knowledge sources. So it allows you to put in resources or points of reference for agents. So for example, a SharePoint library. If you have a SharePoint library, let's say of HR benefit general information, you can connect your Copilot agent to it so that it'll extract information based on the questions that the users are putting into the chat. It can be added during initial creation, after, or added to the generative answers topic node. You can add and manage knowledge for generative answers. So for multiple sources, we have SharePoint. You can add external websites. We're actually going to look, our demo is going to include a SharePoint list or SharePoint library and an external website. And you connect to Dataverse, Azure SQL. And I think if I were to venture to guess, given how Microsoft rolls these things out, this list of available options is just going to continue to grow. And it can be used as a primary information source or as a fallback source. So let's say you want to have a direct answer given to the user based on a question. You can do that. And if they, let's say, don't like that answer or you route it away, you can have it as a fallback source. One thing to note, that public website searches the query input on Bing. So since it's Microsoft, if you are querying, it's going to give you the Bing answer. By default, when an agent is created, the conversation boosting system topic is automatically created and contains a generative answers node. Really what that means is you don't have to do anything. It's all done, no legwork, automatically spins up. And our last feature is entities and slot filling. So entities are essentially little packages of information. So some examples are name, email, phone, zip code, and agents can recognize relevant information from an input and save for later use. And there's a number of pre-built entities already. So all of those examples are already pre-built. They're kind of just common points of information when engaging with a chatbot or agent. Slot filling is a natural language understanding concept to save an extracted value to an object. So in the case of Studio, it's saved as a variable. So a common example of this is going to be email. So if you have an external user interacting with your agent and you want to capture their email because we want to circle back with them at some point or we want to collect that information, that is a common example. Another one for slot filling specifically is, let's say a user is saying, hey, show me the best supper spots in this city. But depending on where you're from, you might not refer to it as supper, or you might not have programmed it or to look for supper, but the AI will recognize that supper means dinner, and it'll save them under what is factored as the dinner variable, so that all your information is mapped correctly or as correct as it can be, and to help, enforce that data integrity. Okay, now we're going to pop over and do our demo. So bear with me because I'm doing it live. Okay, so our use case for this one is I wanted to build kind of an EHS buddy because that's my background. And we've had a couple use cases come up lately, so I thought it'd be relevant. So the idea here is I have two different references. I have an SDS sheet library. And so what this role in safety is we have a facility. Every facility is supposed to have a chemical inventory. That way, if somebody's exposed to something dangerous or some kind of chemical, first responders have a point of reference to figure out how to address it and how to mitigate the problem. So this is an OSHA requirement. It's actually one of the top cited, don't quote me on this, but it's one of the top cited OSHA violations is not having a chemical inventory or solid HAZCOM program. So that's our first one. So in here, I'll show you what one looks like just so you can get a flavor. So it's a safety data sheet and it's just got all this relevant information. So prevention, how to store it, how to dispose of it. And so we have a list of, maybe 10 in here. Next, I have just the external facing OSHA website. So this is the osha.gov/HAZCOM. So I'm going to connect these both as knowledge points in our agent. So let's spin one up, see what happens. So I started in Power App, you can see here. I went down to agents and then I just did start from blank. I created one yesterday as proof of concept. So if you see EHS Buddy, that's one. We're going to create the same one from scratch, but we're going to call it EHS Pal. So let's say skip to configure. So here, give it a title. You can change the icon if you have like a specific image. We've worked with some clients who literally like to put someone's face on it, which is kind of fun sometimes. Description. So agent to help assist with EHS related questions. Instructions. So here, direct the behavior of the agent, including tasks and how to complete them. Provide, this is just general, but you can get specific, polite responses. And starter prompts. So we're going to skip that for now. And we're going to hit create. We're going to add knowledge after, so I can show you where to do that. So if you have to do it after, you know where to go. Okay. So here we have our general tabs. You can see here it's got, hi, I'm EHS Pal Virtual Assistant. All of this is customizable if you want to change the verbiage or the language. And here's all the information that we just put in. But first, we need to go over to settings and enable this. So here you can see it defaults me to the agents. We want to go over to generative AI. So how should people interact? It's defaulted to classic. We're going to change this to generative. Okay, let's X out here. Let's go back. We're going to add in our couple knowledge. With my notepad with my SharePoint. So let's start with our SharePoint library. Okay, so we've added our SharePoint library. And now we're going to add our OSHA website. But before we do, let's poke around and see what we got. So we got public websites, SharePoint Dataverse, which is in preview. You can also add specific files if you want to kind of isolate, your responses. Additionally, under advanced, there's some enterprise data connections also in preview, but we have Azure SQL, Salesforce. And this is what I was saying earlier. I'm willing to bet this list is going to just continue to grow and probably grow pretty quickly. So we're actually going to go back to feature. We're going to public websites. So I'm going to enter my link. I'm not the owner, so we're going to leave that. Okay, so now we can go over and first I'm going to publish. We're going to test our agent. So I'm going to ask it some targeted questions based on my library and what's on that OSHA website. So the first thing I'm going to ask is how many sections are in an SDS sheet? Because that's something that's very specific. And also something that we can see that's available on our OSHA website. Sorry, Teams, it's doing the thing. So if I go down here, I can see safety data sheets now have a specified 16 section format. So if we test, so on the left side here, I'm going to see what it's actually doing. There's a little delay between session started and session completed, so we should see it pop up in a second. But it kind of tells you, the inputs and the outputs. So here, SDS sheets have a specified 16 section format. That worked just as expected. Wunderbar. Next, we're going to test how is ammonia stored. So this one is specific to my SDS library in SharePoint. So here I can see, did that. Should be stored in a well-ventilated place protected with sunlight in an upright position. And that is because I have an ammonia SDS sheet. So real quick, let's take a look. We have overview. So that's just all of your kind of general information. Here's where you can turn on orchestration. Knowledge, this is where you can add additional knowledge topics. So maybe websites, Azure SQL, if you want to add a multitude of SharePoint list or libraries. Topics. So these are all of these standard out of the box ones that happen when you spin up a new agent. Conversation start and end conversation, fallback. Actions, here's where you can add some specific actions in there. Activity. So this will kind of just give you a high level. Who's been interacting? What questions have they been asking? And then once you have your Copilot Studio deployed for a specific amount of time, or it's got enough interaction, you'll start getting some analytics in here so that it'll tell you kind of outcomes and engagement. So how many abandoned, how many escalated, how many resolved, different sources, error rates, total rates. And again, once you get enough feedback to your agent, then this will start populating. And then channels. Channels is where you can surface your Copilot Studio. So we've worked with clients to have it on a Power page in addition to their external facing website. You can put it on Teams, Skype, a number of different places. Those will, depending on which one you use, sometimes take a little additional configuration, but if that's what we're for, if you need some help. So that was our quick little demo. It was obviously just very high level, but I just wanted to demonstrate how quickly you can be getting substantive feedback from your chatbot. And that doesn't even touch getting in there and doing custom topics or branching or logic or power automate. So maybe somebody asks a specific question and you want it to trigger an email to a person to escalate. All of that is possible. So I'm going to flip back over to my slide deck. And again, if you have questions, please pop them in the chat, and we'll take a look at them at the end. Okay, next we're going to cover just some general use cases. So EHS is very specific, but these are general use cases that are already templatized. So if you go into Copilot Studio, they're already set up, and all you need to do is go in and do a little bit of configuration, and then you can deploy them to your organization. Maybe you want to do a lot of customization and you want it to do very specific things, but this way you at least have a starting place. So the first one is IT help desk. So an agent to report IT issues. It can help resolve issues and escalate to human intervention. So if you're working with omni-channel or Dynamics customer service and omni-channel, you can have a integration between Power Virtual Agents and omni-channel. Create and view support tickets, and this particular one connects to ServiceNow. So if your organization uses ServiceNow, then it's already kind of set up. You just need to do a little bit of configuration. The next one is citizen services. So this is an agent with publicly available websites to assist citizens in navigating government services. This one particularly resonates with me because I just moved to a new city and had to figure out how to get water and how to get garbage and all of the things. So this one is an available template. The example that they have in here is the city of Redmond, but you can see build an agent with publicly available websites. I kind of thought this was funny because their instructions said maintain a polite tone when responding, so I make sure to put that in all of mine now. And last one is honorable mention. Kudos. My first Power platform or my first Power app I ever built was a Kudos app to give thank yous to other employees. Job well done, associate it to a particular corporate value. So that's why I picked this one. So this one is coming soon, not yet released, but I wanted to give it an honorable mention. One last thing I will mention before we go to Q&A is I always liked to put little Easter eggs. I always like to put a joke in my Power Virtual Agents before, but I would have to code that. And just in case somebody said, hey, tell me a joke on the offhand. Now AI does it automatically and I don't have to code that. So I think that's really cool. A little slow, but sure. Here's a lighthearted joke for you. Why don't scientists trust atoms? Because they make everything up. Make up everything. Okay. Now let's take a look. So some general Q&A, or some topics I'm going to cover because I probably anticipate there are going to be questions, are upgrade existing chatbots. So if you currently have an existing Power Virtual Agent, you can upgrade those, because basically you'll go in and there'll be an option where it says upgrade. So then that way you have all of the AI tools available within your existing apps. If you already have a bunch of logic in there, makes it easier. Licenses for Copilot Studio. So they have 3 different options currently. They have a pay-as-you-go, so that is 1 cent per message. They also have message packs, which is $200 per tenant per month. Those do not roll over, just as a side note. And then Copilot in M365 Copilot. So if you already have a Microsoft 365 Copilot, which is $30 per user per month, you have you have Copilot Studio or Copilot agents available to you, Studio agents. So any other questions? Oh, okay. The question is costs that might be triggered by using Copilot Studio against Azure hosted and external data sources. My past experience with using agents is that they are inexpensive to create and host, but as soon as you connect them to data, there can be some kind of yes. So I'm going to say generally this is the case in the Power Platform. When you're spinning up anything that's connected to standard connectors like SharePoint, Outlook, Office 365 users, those are all standard. But anytime you start integrating with third-party data, such as Azure, Salesforce, I mean, even if you create a custom connector, those are all going to, they will incur additional costs. Because if you're, for example, if you're using Power Automate, you're going to have an account that has a premium license associated to that to push and pull the data between. So I hope that answered your questions. Any other questions? All right, if you have any, feel free to put them in the chat. But my ask of all of you is, if you have any use cases, please send them to us. We're very curious on how industry is going to be using these. As consultants, we're looking at it from our specific lens and trying to figure out, how it would help different organizations, whether you're manufacturing, pharmacy. How would this help your organization? So if you think of anything, shoot me an email, rpalya@mailctp.com, and maybe we'll use it as an example in another demo.